Next up is opportunity for citizens to speak. Do we have any citizens who would like to address the committee? Anybody? Seeing none, I will be moving on to the minute approval for February 6, 2018. I'll be looking for a motion. Okay, looking for a motion
I'll
then?
move for approval.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. It would be 4-0. Mrs. Brezink has been excused this evening. Next on our agenda are the Bright Lights, Celebration of English Language Development. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring the team up here.
Be great.
All right, well, thank you for having us tonight, and I'm supposed to use the microphone, that's right.
Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to come.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for highlighting our English Language Department tonight. My name is Marisa Nathan, the English Language Development Coordinator, and I'm going to introduce my friends here in just a minute. Tonight, what we are sharing with you is our work with the teaching channel. We were here back in the fall where we shared some of our work with our dual language program, but this is specific to our English language development program at Horning High School. And so through a partnership with Teaching Channel, the School District of Waukesha, and Confianza, Equity, Language, and Literacy, we had the opportunity to host a teaching channel in our district. So I'd like to introduce you to my team, or maybe you guys should introduce yourselves and kind of say what you do in the district and where you go to school.
My name is Chris Knutson. I'm a social studies teacher at Horny Middle School, both 6th and 8th grade.
I'm Charlie Ortega. Oh, my bad, I wasn't pressing. I'm Charlie Ortega, and I'm a student from last year that participated in this teaching channel.
I'm David Interit. I'm a student from last year from Horning.
Yep. And I'm Shannon Kay. I'm an English Language Development Specialist at Horning.
I'm Meredith Sweeney, and I teach 8th grade humanities at Horning.
All right, thank you, team. So the goal of the School District of Waukesha Multilingual Program is for all students to be academic language learners, or ALLs, in order to access curriculum in all content areas to be college and career ready. And so we're going to show you some of the practices that we use and that we highlighted on the teaching channel. And this practice is called expert groups, and I think Shannon's going to tell you a little bit about that before we share our video with you.
Sure, you're just going to see a small portion of this video. This is a strategy that took maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Basically, the kids are given the opportunity to become experts in a certain area of the content that we're studying, and they are given the charge to learn about and then teach their peers about that topic. They employ 3 of the 4 domains of language. This is very heavy on listening, active listening, as well as speaking and reading.
Watch the video.
When Lincoln died, Kirsten Johnson came in the role.
So Andrew Johnson's a big name, do you remember?
Yeah, Andrew Johnson was part of it.
Important facts were that before the Civil War, there were no public schools, so all white people had to pay to a teacher to go there.
So I know President Johnson wanted a veto to go against. Yeah, go against. So take it away.
So not everybody could go to school.
Yeah, because he didn't want white people or black people to go to school because he thought it was interfering with states' rights.
How confident do you feel in your ability to add information to our chart? Do you feel like you understand it really well?
Yeah.
Now's your time. If there's anything you're confused about, ask your expert before we share our information.
Why did it happen?
Because they were trying to rebuild the Union after the war.
When you say before the Civil War they didn't have public school, was it they didn't have public schools for nobody? Okay. Just the whites had tutors at home. Okay.
They needed to find something to do, so that's why they created this program to help them. So it was really good with them, but white people got mad at them because they were thinking, oh, they're free and now they're getting more rights.
What's the impact on African Americans and all white schools for black people? Gave food to poor white and freedmen in the South.
Howard.
Yeah.
Oliver Johnson.
No, Andrew Johnson.
Andrew Johnson. Abraham Lincoln.
Congress.
And Congress.
Yeah.
Once every team feels comfortable that they know their information well, we moved on to a process grid. All right, we're going to transition and start sharing out that information that you just learned. We do collect the experts' notes. So we really want to focus on that active listening. Did they hear it? Did they really learn it? Is it in their head?
We're going to open up the first 3 categories of our process grid. Who was involved? When and where did it take place? And why did it happen or exist? Purple team. Number 4.
Who was involved? The Congress.
Remember that this round is worth 30 points for each answer.
Each team will receive points. These points don't count towards anything, but students like that competition. They like that little reward.
Over to red team.
We only open up a certain number of categories at a time, so we're asking students just the basics first. It gives them some choice without being too overwhelming. It gives them the scaffold.
Let's go ahead and open up the rest of the board as well if you have something that you'd like to add for the impact on African Americans and or whites.
Just a reminder, you're in a team for a reason. When your spoon is called, as a team, you can help out that person who is sharing.
Let's hear from the yellow team. Number 4.
For the impact, it helped establish education in the South.
Even if the information is incorrect or incomplete, we do write it on the board to show their learning, and later the students will get extra points for correcting mistakes or adding information that was missed.
Purple team. Number 2.
There's no public schools because she just said schools instead of
Oh,
public
yeah.
schools.
There were no public schools before the Civil War.
Do you want to add in public
Yeah.
schools? Yeah. Because they're very specific in information. Thank you. Like it.
So what I'd like you to notice in the video is that we keep the rigor and the expectations very high. Our students are learning English in this class, but we're not watering down the curriculum. We're supporting them with these specific supports around the expert groups, and around sticks and spoons is another strategy that we saw in the video. So if there's anything that you ladies would like to add, or Chris,
Can
about
I
how this
interrupt with a
helps.
question that might help us? The population of students that we're dealing with here, could you help us understand the cross-section? I don't mean here, I mean
In the
here.
class, I think Shannon would be best to
Oh,
answer
okay,
that question.
because I'm confused as to exactly who we're dealing with here.
So it was and it continues to be a monolingual English classroom, but our English language learners are in the class as well. So second language learners as well as native English speakers as well.
Well, there are, okay, that was part of it. There are native English speakers in there with non-native English speakers.
Correct.
Okay.
All levels. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, that helps.
Yes.
The differentiation, some of that comes in to when we make the groupings. We're very strategic in who is an expert in teaching what particular topic, and so those texts can be leveled and those supports can be put in place to help students be successful.
Thank you.
And one thing that's very unique about this situation, you'll see that there's 3 teachers here, and they're supporting 2 classes. So you had about 45 students between the 2 rooms, is that correct? So we had 45 students total, and we had like an open kind of concept classroom.
Okay, thanks.
So I'd like to open it up unless we have anything to add. If you have any questions for our students here tonight, or the teachers.
I'm not the only one here. I will.
Mrs. Ryanchek?
Thank you. To Charlie and David, how has this helped you in, what high school are you in now? Are you in high school?
I'm in West.
Okay,
In South.
excellent. And so how has this class helped you?
It made me understand more of like reading text and then analyzing it and putting into a note sheet kind of thing. Because I was never like that good at like taking out text and putting it into my own words and like writing it down on a note sheet. And this experience as like a teacher really helped me explain what I was like learning through text and putting it into my own words on a note sheet. And it was like really, it got me really in the mode to like how to like express my my learning.
And do you feel that you can take this into other subjects as well, and just pretty much whatever, even if it's not even in school, let's say you're, reading an article or hearing something on the television, do you kind of picture these boxes now instead of it just being one big burst of information? Does this help you categorize it and who, when?
Yeah, I still tend to like make notes in my like notebook or something or a piece of paper to like jot down my notes and get my thoughts down. And like if anybody has any like, oh, didn't it say this? And I can like come back with like notes right there handy for myself. And it like really made me like think about how to take notes and how to make my learning better and how to make my organization of my thoughts clearer.
Excellent. And anything for you?
I think it's helped me a lot because since I first got here, I don't really understand those taking notes stuff as much as from right now after taking the class, because like it's helped me understand more of what I should be paying attention on and what should I be answering more.
And do you guys, now that you're experts in it, do you have any ideas how to make the class better? Like now that you are ahead of this, when you see yourself back then, are you thinking, yeah, you know what, if there were prizes for those points? Or, I just mean anything. Is there any way that you would do things different?
Well, I really don't have anything to like add on to what I said, because I thought it was like really like, such a good idea for like how it like turned out. And I love teaching other people and like love like helping other people teach, because there's, as Ms. Kay said, there's like several students that didn't know how to speak English, or there was people that knew how to speak English and they just need extra help or some kind of thing like that. And it was really interesting to like get to know those people more and like help them and get out of their comfort zone and try to like explain their knowledge. I mean, explain what they wrote down, and it was like really nice to like get to know them and such.
And I would think that you would have maybe some empathy for maybe someone who didn't know English as well as you, or you thought maybe you didn't know it very well, but then there was someone else who was maybe, they weren't the teacher, but you were learning from them. And did you like that group atmosphere where you guys were all sharing, instead of just learning all from a book or something? Did you think that helped you learn better that way?
Definitely, because it was coming from kids and like our peers, and it felt like very like in our own words, like what kind of words we'd use if we weren't like, I'm not saying like what they're saying is confusing or anything, but like if it like in kid form kind of thing, like peers, it's like it seems more like you can understand it better and you're able to memorize it and like get it in your head.
Okay, great.
Mr. Baumgart.
What, for the two of you again, what path have you followed prior to middle school to get into speaking English? Have you been in our bilingual program, or what have you done previously prior to Horning?
Well, for me, I've never been in like a bilingual. I've always wanted to be like a part of one, but I've never been like a part of an actual bilingual program. But like, it was really nice to like help them explain what they're trying to say out loud when I was helping somebody that didn't know how to speak English that well. So it was really nice to like get that experience and like explain what they wrote down instead of like a teacher saying, oh, you wrote this down and you're gonna say this kind of thing. And then like helping them made them get more understanding of what they were doing.
Excellent, thank you.
I'm not in bilingual program, but I did move from Thailand to here.
Oh.
So for almost 3 years now. So I got some help from the teacher to help me with it. And yeah.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ryanchek.
Thank you. David, you just reminded me of a question. So did you meet anyone else that spoke your language? So was anyone else from Thailand that you could, that might help you learn better?
I did meet someone. Her name is Vasana, but she go to West too, and she also from Thailand, and she doesn't speak that well too. So
Did you help each other?
yeah, we do
Did you know any English before you came here?
a little bit, not as much as now.
Do you think that you'll take any other languages besides?
Not right now,
Yeah.
but maybe later.
Okay. Doing great. You're doing great. Both of you are.
So, you know, when our students, other language, if they don't have Spanish as a first language, then we don't have a bilingual program for them. And so that's the purpose of English language development within the classrooms. And so you can see the intentionality behind these practices, and that's what we're getting at when we say, you know, we do specific strategies and scaffolds to support all students to be successful in the class. And this is really, I want to honor these teachers and, you know, let them know what a great job they did between their intentionality behind this to make our students successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris, you wanted to say one more thing?
Yeah, and I mean, we want to thank the school district as well, because this training, you know, was obviously sponsored by the school district, and we actually went through 2 rounds of different training for this in order to get to this point. So we appreciate that opportunity.
I'm impressed.
If you'd like to see any of our other videos again, we have some that we use. The whole country is looking at our videos, just so you know. They're all over the place. They're honoring our school district. So I encourage you, I know we shared this with you last time, but there are some specific to Horning Middle School and some specific strategies that we highlight. So I really encourage you to take a look, because everybody's looking at them.
Yeah, Mrs. Ranichek.
Thank you. Chris, Meredith, and Shannon, how did you get the idea for this particular chart, and where else do you get your ideas? If we're kind of on the cutting edge of doing things, how do you come up with these?
Yeah. So it's a strategy that we learned as far as the different, you know, having the topics and having the differentiated articles, and all of that's part of the strategies that we've learned. But we sat together as history and literacy and talked about the content. And as far as the history content, what content do we want them to know? This was the Reconstruction era, where there's just so many different pieces of history, and we thought the best way to do that would be having them help teach each piece. So I think we had Freedmen's Bureau and Ku Klux Klan, and we had 5, I forget all of them right now. But just the content led itself to having lots of different options, and to make it interesting having the students teach it, because it's not always the most exciting part of history. And then afterwards we came together with a Civil War project and talked about Reconstruction and how do we rebuild all together now that we've looked at all the individual pieces. But we've used it this year and previous years with different content. We've used it in Revolutionary War battles. We just finished it with Civil War perspectives, looking at primary sources from all different perspectives. But we adjust based on the content, and then we develop the top 5 categories based on the content we want the students to know and what we think will be most interesting to the kids in front of us.
Excellent.
Then it's a matter of finding the articles and differentiating them to meet the content that we select and the needs in front of us.
It's like if you found a strategy that's working, then why change it? I mean, you can change the content, yes, but if that system is working for you and it seems that the students enjoy it too, then roll with it. Thank you.
For the teachers, could you tell me, is this teaming experience unique to Horning, or is it happening at other middle schools in Waukesha?
Or other schools, period.
Or other schools?
High school would be great, too.
So maybe I'll speak to this because I kind of work across the district and all the schools. So we have some different co-teaching partnerships. All of our English language development specialists are asked to co-teach with at least one content teacher. This is unique in the sense that it's 3 teachers, which is amazing. So otherwise, yes, we do have co-teaching partnerships in all of our schools.
So
Well, in all of our schools that are supported by an English language development specialist.
middle schools and high schools?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm. And elementary.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
Excellent. Any other questions? Nope. Fantastic. I think that it really is a great way to
Thank you very
teach.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Alrighty. Next item on our agenda is presentation items. We have none. And we also have no action items. So we're moving on to our information items. First up is Dreambox and 10 Marks update. Rose and Dan, welcome. Welcome back. Seen you in about a month.
Hello, thanks for having us back.
Thanks for coming
I'm
back.
Rose Palmer, the elementary math coordinator, and I'm here with.
Dan Paczynski, secondary math coordinator.
And as we were here last month, we talked about the process we went through to bring recommendations to the board. Tonight, our main focus is to talk about what the findings were from that process and what we want to move forward with, what our recommendations are, what our considerations were for the recommendations, and just to share that information with you, and then we'll be back next month for final approval. So the first thing I wanted to just highlight is what are the expectations that we had for the supplemental math resources, what were we looking for when we went in. So you can see here we wanted to find resources that were going to meet the needs of all students based on their readiness levels. We wanted to make sure it was accessible to all students. It was interesting that Marisa went first because she was talking about all students, and I think that's a big piece that we're looking for always. We wanted to make sure it was accessible to all, especially our monolingual and our dual language programs. Another consideration we had was that the resource had to align with our standards that we're using here in the state of Wisconsin so that it wasn't going to be any different for our teachers. It would just meld with what they're doing within the classrooms. All of the resources that we're bringing forward include some professional development because we feel that if teachers are going to use these curriculum resources with fidelity or to the best of what they have to offer, we need to make sure we're informing teachers about that professional development that they can use. And finally, we wanted to make sure that there were tools that would help to measure achievement within the program and within our math achievement. So all of these give us reports that we can monitor how students are doing within each of our different strands in math and in math overall.
Throughout our process, we wanted to look at student achievement. So just as an overview, looking at over the last 4 years, the growth that our students have had according to MAP testing. So this is kids exiting 5th grade, going into 6th grade. Over the last 4 years, we've increased over 6.1% of our kids are college and career ready as indicated by that assessment. Similarly, over that same time span, our exiting 8th graders going into high school, we've increased over 5%, which is greater than the standard increase. So we're doing some really good things in terms of achievement at both the elementary and the middle school level, which is what we're talking about today for these possible adoptions.
So one of the things we looked at was how are the resources that we currently use, are they being used within our schools and within our classrooms? So you're going to see here is elementary, and with elementary, on the blue says that we have 2,666 students who are currently using the program, and they break it down by colors. So there's a gold, a silver, and then the bronze. And if you look at the gold, you can see that we are at 1,062, and gold students mean that our students are completing more than three or more assignments in a week. So they're using the program quite a bit. The silver is usually about they're completing 1 to 3 assignments per week, and then the bronze is about 1 a week. And so you can see at the elementary level, 10 marks is being used. We currently use it in grades 4th and 5th. 3rd grade, it's optional because right now 3rd grade has either Dreambox, they have Dreambox and 10 marks, and the 3rd grade teachers choose which one fits best depending upon the time of the year or what fits best with their students.
At the middle school level, looking at similar graphs, all of our current students are using it, but they're not quite using it at the same level as elementary students are. So while all of our students are actively using 10 marks as the tool and our teachers value it, at this point, they're not using it at the same rate that our elementary schools are. Speaking with teachers and getting their ideas and thoughts on that, they're just having a really hard time trying to fit that in their already pretty jammed curriculum with the amount of time they have per class with their students. There's varying amounts of time depending on what elementary school you are. You could be up to 90 minutes per class period, where at the middle schools you're hovering between 45 or 50 minutes. So the amount of time that we have with kids doing math is a little bit less. So we are using the program. Teachers appreciate it. They believe it's rigorous, but they're not getting using it quite as much as the elementary schoolers are.
So if I look at Dreambox usage, again, this graph is showing all of our elementary schools. We ask our teachers to use Dreambox and 10 marks roughly about 45 to 60 minutes a week. And so with the 10 marks, they break it down by assignments. Dreambox breaks it down by minutes. And I know that's really hard to see right there, but the usage for our elementary schools really averages from 46 minutes per week all the way up to 82. The 82 minutes is our eAchieve Academy, which would make more sense because of them being the online platform. But every single elementary school on average is using Dreambox for our recommended usage, which is also the recommendation from Dreambox, the company itself. So again, I think by looking at that, you can see both 10 marks and Dreambox are being used by our classroom teachers right now. So when we look at the usage features, each of the programs have different access points or different things to use. So 10 marks has what is called assignments, jam sessions, assessments, one-click differentiation, 10 marks lessons, which are more of a lesson that I can present to my class, as well as labs. And you can see that when you look at the elementary, the assignments are used the most, but they really are using all of the features. And if you look, you can see the percentages. It goes all the way from 81% are using assignments down to the 30% of labs. Labs are their newest feature that were added this year. So I think it's just getting to where teachers are starting to know some of those pieces. We've had 10 marks come in for our Waukesha 1, as well as our kickoff at the beginning of the year. And any of the teachers that actually go to those sessions are always walking away with new information, like having ideas of how they could implement this into their classroom.
Similarly at the...
I have one question.
Oh,
Dan.
yes.
Are the assignments, are those done in class or are those done at home? How does that, what do those look like?
They are done in class.
Okay.
Everything is done in class. If teachers give the assignment, students can work on it. And there's assignments that I give to my whole class,
Yep.
but then there's also that one-click differentiation you'll see up there. So if I give my class an assignment, I can see how kids are doing on it. And these assignments are about 10 questions each. From that, the program itself will say, these students have the material that we're looking at. These kiddos need more practice, and this group might be missing some information that's going to help them to be more successful. And so I can click on the one-click differentiation, and now my students will get personalized assignments. So that's those assignments. But again, everything's done within the class day or within the school day. Can students work on it at home? Absolutely, but we have emphasized with all of our teachers, it's what's being done in the classroom, and then if they do something at home, that's the gravy in a sense, that's the extra.
Excellent.
Looking at similar data from the middle school levels, you can see that all of our teachers are using it at the assignment level. That's that black bar up above. We have 100% of our middle school teachers are using it. They're using it at the assignment level, a little bit at the assessment level, and at the jam session level. Those are what I'd call the basic features of the 10 marks program. They're not quite finding as much time to spend on the other features.
And then looking at Dreambox again, you can see that teachers are using assigned focus. So again, at that assignment level where I can give it an assignment that I'm studying geometry, I can push out an assignment on geometry. So they're using that, as well as the teacher control features mean that they can turn on engagement restrictions. They can turn on, like there's games that they can play, but they can put those into, they're going to do that on a Friday, or they're going to do it during a certain time period. So they're using those features to be able to make the program work for them. The one that's not used quite as much, again, is their newest feature, which is the long-term assignments. And with that feature, our teachers are able to give an assignment, and it will give kids various assignments over the course of time, whatever that long term is that I gave them. So if I said I'm going to be on this unit for the next 3 weeks, it will continually give them assignments, moving them forward in that particular domain. And so again, with Dreambox, you can see that teachers are using the different features along the way. So what that comes to is we also did a teacher survey, if you recall from last time, and we wanted to see what teachers felt about each of the programs. Are they feeling that it's building that conceptual understanding? Is it helping with procedural fluency? Is it helping with strategic reasoning? And so you can see the top graph is of Dreambox. The green means that they strongly agree that Dreambox is helping to build that understanding for our students. Blue was agree, and then you'll see that there's 1.7% added to, which gets us down to the disagree. If you look at 10 marks, again, the 4 is the part that's in green, so strongly agree for 59.2% of our teachers, and then the third, or which is an agree, at 34%. So both programs seem to be fitting the need for helping our students to understand math and to move forward with their procedural fluency and reasoning.
Yeah, looking at that same question with the middle school teachers, we have over 50% of our teachers who strongly agree that it is a great program, but then we have 50% that are in the middle or hovering down towards it's not quite as effective for their usage. And that echoed throughout the time that I spoke with teachers and the information that I gathered from them. So you're going to kind of see that trend. It's not a bad trend, it's just what came up from our research and what we did. And it's nothing, we're still having great achievement with our secondary level. It's just that isn't the tool that all of our teachers are utilizing quite as much. So that's an okay thing, but we just need to keep that in mind as we look at the rest of this.
So in sharing all this information tonight, if you recall, we looked at 4 different programs when we were here the last time. We looked at ST Math, we looked at Front Row, 10 Marks, and Dreambox. And we've really highlighted 10 Marks and Dreambox as to what we have done with these programs currently. And then we asked our selection committee to rank them. What would you prefer if you had to decide what program would be best for kindergarten, first, and so on? And you can see through K through 3rd grade, you can see that blue bar is really high up. That is our Dreambox. And so it's looking like that still is meeting our needs, that teachers found that compared to other programs, that still was the #1 program to use. When you get to 4th and 5th grade, 4th is kind of in the middle. Green is our 10 marks that we're using, and so you can see that it is higher than our other programs, but 4th grade was a little bit more mixed along the way. But 5th grade was definitely, again, favoring some of that 10 marks usage that we're currently using.
At the secondary level, you're going to see that in 6th grade and 7th grade, looking at the programs that our teachers would prefer best, it's actually has changed. So it's went against what we've been using in the past, and that kind of echoes the data we've seen so far. In 6th and 7th grade, teachers would prefer something that's a little bit more interactive. 10 Marks is, for the most part, a text-based program. Kids see a lot of questions in the way the teachers are using it. It's just they're seeing a lot of questions. Unlike the elementary school where they're using some more of the interactive features because of the time, our teachers felt in 6th and 7th grade that they'd like to see something where kids can latch onto and do on their own a little bit more easily than 10 Marks, as it becomes really rigorous really quickly at the secondary level. In 8th grade, our teachers felt that 10 Marks was hitting the right spots and it was good. And they were happy with that in comparison to the other programs that we looked at. But you can see that there's a little bit of, there's some really good conversations among our teachers about what would be best for each grade level and for the readiness level of our students.
So in addition to that, we just thought we'd throw up a couple of teacher comments because we asked them for their feedback along the way. And so you can see up there that lower elementary Dreambox is heads above the others. But I think the interesting one is the last one. Like a ref in the review booth of a football game, I don't see enough positives in either ST or Front Row to overturn the effectiveness of 10 Marks and Dreambox that are in place right now at the elementary level. The middle one, was an email that I received from a teacher who wasn't even on the selection committee, but wanted to make sure that we knew what their viewpoint was on the 10 Marks feature. So I wanted to include that as well.
Yeah, there are a few comments here. We're both in support of 10 Marks for its rigor and against 10 Marks for its rigor, depending on the grade level. And teachers adamantly say that ST Math would be a great choice for their students because they believe that they could leverage that program in their classes so that kids could do independent work while they're meeting with smaller groups, and kids would actually do the independent work as opposed to where 10 Marks is. And teachers are saying that if they give these assignments to kids in their classes, they're tending not to do them on their own because they're too hard. They need too much scaffolding at that particular grade level because of the standard increase that happens at 6th and 7th grade.
So with all of that information that we've just shared, our recommendation at this point for the elementary is it seemed very clear that we needed to continue to use Dreambox in kindergarten through third grade. We are recommending Dreambox for third grade instead of giving them both programs like we currently do, but to focus in on Dreambox for third grade. Again, the selection committee echoes that, as well as knowing that while Dreambox, we're saying third grade, it really will go all the way up to 8th and higher grades. So it's not that it won't meet their needs if we have higher students than third grade in there. It also is great because the Spanish part of it is used within our current system, and there's been good success with that version. The part that we said we'd continue for our 4th and 5th grade then is the 10 marks. Again, it's seems to be supported with the survey results, as well as many of the comments that we received still said they felt that there were a lot of features in 10 marks that really helps them with their students. And if, as you could see from our data, our elementary teachers are using it and students are very accustomed to using it.
Before I get into our recommendation for the secondary level, I want to tell you a little bit more about ST Math, because that's what you've heard about least, because it hasn't been in our district, and the why for the suggestion of the adjustment, which you've probably already anticipated based on the data that I showed you. ST Math stands for Spatial Temporal Math, or see the math, essentially. So students are going to be doing some discovery learning in a game-based setting. It's very visual appealing, and it can reach kids on personalized paths. That's a little bit easier to set up than what we've had with previous tools, and it aligns really well to our 6th and 7th grade standards. It actually doesn't align very well to our 8th grade standards, which kind of works out well considering the data we got back from our selection committee. And it makes sense because our teachers looked at those standards. They thought, well, a lot of our 8th grade students are going to be going into algebra or geometry, or even some of them algebra 2 and pre-calc. And this particular tool hits home at the 6th and 7th grade level and lower, and a little bit at the 8th grade level in algebra. So the selection committee did a really good job at exploring this particular activity, and that's why, looking at the current recommendation, we're going to look at kind of a split, something we haven't done before in the past. But based on all the data we collected and our teachers' input, we'd like to use a combination of 10 marks and ST Math for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I put two options up there, not to be, just because I want to be really clear in where we're at. We're still in the middle of negotiations. We're trying to find the best possible price point to get it down. And so both of these are great options. Options one, we would get more. So 6th and 7th grade would get a limited version of 10 marks. A limited version means it's significantly less in cost. It would still allow them to do what they're currently doing. With that limited version, that'd be a good thing, but then they'd also get ST Math. 8th graders would only get the 10 marks. Option two, depending on how pricing goes, would be 6th and 7th grade would only get ST Math, and 8th grade would get 10 marks. We're going to see how negotiations go and see if I can get those down to the same cost so we can get more for the same amount of what we're looking at.
So again, this is where we're at. As we come forward next time, we will definitely have all of our numbers squared away. All companies have given us their initial numbers, but we've been playing just some, but what about, and what can we do with this? And so as of today, I got 2 quick frantic emails like, when are you meeting? What can we get? So I know that they're really working hard to come up with that best price for us to bring forward next time.
Mr. Baumgart.
Probably to play the devil's role here a little bit.
Absolutely.
There doesn't seem to be much question at the lower grades with Dreambox. The question does come in with the earlier slide where you showed a very minimal usage of the programs at the middle school.
Absolutely.
Is it worth it at all?
Yeah, that was a question that I posed to my middle school teachers. I said, if we're not going to use it at a higher amount, is it worth us going into this? And so we've had those conversations all throughout the past year. The selection committee came in at that same exact idea as well. The key for them was, it's not worth it for what it currently is for 6th and 7th grade. They said it. pretty much flat out with all their responses. At 8th grade, they feel like it's very appropriate for what they're doing and how they're using it.
With the 10 marks as it is?
With 10 marks as it is. But what the 6th and 7th grade teachers did feel is that they do need a program to help with facilitating what they want their classes to look like. So you can imagine when kids are working on their iPads and they're diligently excited about what's in front of them, now the teacher can pull small groups and they can focus on kids that really need the help or extend kids that need the extension. So that's what they're really looking for, is a tool that engages a little bit more easily than what the 6th and 7th grade version of 10 marks does.
In a way, you've got to really get a commitment out of them.
Absolutely.
Going forward,
Yeah.
they've got to use this.
We've talked about that, and what I'm proposing is that we're going to be going with a 1-year contract for this next.
Oh, you can do that.
We
At
won't be
least,
doing a
can you
3-year
split the
contract with
So you
this
can split the
particular round.
contract, so the Dreambox could be longer, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, and at the elementary level, they're probably going to be proposing and should be proposing a 3-year commitment.
Okay, I understand, yeah, why, yeah. Okay,
Because
thank
there's
you.
no reason for them to change. But yeah, that's exactly where we're at, and our teachers know that.
Glad you've investigated that and
Yep.
kind of laid that out for them, because it looked a little shaky at the beginning there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, if you look at the first slide, our teachers at the secondary level are doing great things. The achievement is nearly matched elementary's level. It just looks different when you look at it. Our teachers are leveraging some other things that they're using with kids, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
In your opinion, Rose or Dan, why is it not being used at the 6th and 7th grade? Is that like a transition year where they're doing things, they're transitioning into a different?
It's there's something that's rigorous and perfect, and there's things that are too rigorous. Based off of what my teachers are saying, at those particular grade levels, because of the standards and where they're at, it's too rigorous.
Okay.
But as they get to 8th grade, you're probably wondering, well, why is it okay in 8th grade?
Right.
In my opinion, it's okay in 8th grade because those kids are finally getting up into algebra, and most kids are ready for it, or they're in algebra or beyond. And so the content that's in there really matches better with what they're doing in the classroom and what they're ready for. That's my thoughts.
Well, I would probably totally agree. I mean, having the multiple options it's personalized learning.
Right.
Is what it is. Yeah. So if we have 3 where we can, personalize it down to, the grades, that'd be fantastic. Okay. Anything else? Questions? Do you have anything else for us?
Oh, we'll see you next month,
Big
though.
presentation. We'll see you next month for
Yeah.
sure. We're looking forward to it. Thank you. Alrighty. The next information item on our agenda is online theater course update. Welcome.
Hello.
Online theater course, that sounds...
I've already asked of that.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Travia. I've been teaching in the district for 7 years. I spent my first 5 years teaching at Saratoga STEM, and the last 2 years I'm split between eAchieve and South. And over the last 6 months, I have been teaching middle school theater courses via eAchieve. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about the progress that the kids made in that course and kind of what we're thinking about going forward with this curriculum. Oops, just lost. If it'll stay up there. There we go. All right. So, when I interviewed to teach at eAchieve, one of the questions that Rick asked me is what are some of the possibilities of increasing the number of electives we have through eAchieve, particularly at the middle school level. And I had several ideas that I offered him, and one of them he found to be quite intriguing was to offer some sort of a drama class. So I spent last summer designing 2 courses. Last year the board approved 2 middle school theater courses. And so first semester we offered an acting class, and then currently I'm teaching a course in backstage theater, theater tech and design. In both of the courses, students are introduced to the world of the theater. They are learning about and experiencing the techniques and processes that it takes to produce a piece of live theater. In the first course, students who take acting and performance develop their public speaking and performance skills, increase their confidence, reduce their inhibitions, and learn to express themselves in new and interesting ways. In the current course that I'm teaching, Theater Tech and Design, students are exposed to the backstage world of the theater while also provided an interdisciplinary and authentic learning experience that mirrors what the real world of theater is actually like, and I will talk about that momentarily. So when I designed the course, I went to our state's excellent learning targets that they put out for theater education. And I picked these four as the learning targets for our acting and performance class. Students were to create characters through physical movement, adapting movement, and making physical choices to fit the requirements of a scene. Students were to create characters vocally, adapting voice and language to fit the requirements of a scene. Students were to demonstrate an awareness of the basic elements of theater history and how they influence modern performance. And then students were also to demonstrate an increased understanding of what they need to do to make their characters or scenes more believable and or understandable. And we did that through many reflection activities and assignments. And so I thought it was an extremely successful, let's make sure this doesn't start. I thought it was an extremely successful first semester. I have here just a list of some of the projects that we did in the class. We did a unit on physicalization, and so students had to create their own character through pantomime scenes. We worked on developing diction through poetry recitation. Students completed projects delivering both comedic and serious monologues. Their final project was an original character creation monologue and performance. And then we also did some diction work, some script analysis, some reflective writing, and every student in the course was required to attend a live piece of theater and complete an analysis project. So I do have here a couple examples of some of the work that two of the students did. So let me bring it up this way. Do it the other way. Let's do it the other way. Oops. Doesn't seem to be working here. Let's see. I don't think that sound works here, does it?
Should.
Hmm.
Go back and just try to do it through Chrome.
Let's go back and do it through Chrome. Okay. I've lost my presentation. I'm very sorry.
Try that one right there.
There it is. There it is. Sorry. All right, let's see if it works.
Okay.
There we go.
First of all, let me get something straight. This is a journal, not a diary. Yeah, I know what it says on the cover, but when Mom went out to buy this thing, I specifically told her not to get one that had the word diary on it. This just proves that she doesn't understand anything about kids my age. The only reason I agreed to write in this thing is because someday when I'm rich and famous, I'll have better things to do than answer people's stupid questions. I mean, I knew they'd make a movie about my life someday, but why now? I mean, what kind of person wants to watch a movie about a kid who's stuck in middle school with a bunch of morons?
So that was an example of one of our comedic monologues, obviously. And then this student here, let's see.
That's all you want, isn't it? That's what you do. It's why you always create drama in this family. Attention! You're just never happy unless the world is talking about you. You can't live without creating some kind of drama so everyone can be thinking about you and that makes you happy. Why are you so sick in the head? Why? Why can't you just be normal and not be so crazy like that? It's freaky and weird and there are better things you could do to get people to think of you. Do some good stuff once in a while, and I bet you will not only get everyone thinking about you, but you'll also feel good about yourself for a change. Don't you want that? Don't you want to feel good about yourself?
So that's an example of one of the serious pieces that we did. One of the challenges that I had as I was developing the class, of course, is how do you teach a class that's so interactive digitally? It was emphasized right from the beginning that most projects are going to have to be video recorded, and so those are two examples of that. When I was teaching e-sessions in the class, it was a lot of fun because unlike other eAchieve classes that I have taught, I encourage students to get up on their feet. And so a lot of times I said, okay, everyone, I know that you're probably sitting at your computer in your bedroom right now. You're going to need to clear some space for this. And then we'd do a lot of the same similar activities that I would do in a traditional acting class. All right. So here's some of the feedback that some of the students gave after taking acting and performance. I sent out a survey near the end of the course, and one of them said here, one of my favorite parts of the acting and performance class was getting to research and learn about the history of theater and the many different types of theater across the world. I also really enjoyed recording the various monologue performances. It was really fun to act out all different kinds of emotions and scenarios. Another student said, I learned that performing in front of other people isn't as hard as it may seem, and it doesn't have to be scary. I definitely think this will help me to be less nervous about performing in front of others in the future. And I love this one because I'm well aware that these students are probably not going to be on Broadway. They might be, but that's not the primary purpose of taking a course like this. I think the primary purpose is to help them free up their inhibitions, help them to deal with stage fright, help them become more comfortable performing in front of other people. The biggest skill that I learned in this course was how to actually embody a character instead of just faking the emotion the scene requires. I thought that was a good one. The project I was most proud of was our final assignment for the semester. We got to write our own monologue and present it. Mr. Travi and my parents said I did a great job. I was very and still proud of my work. So that's the acting and performance class. I am currently in week 7 of teaching theater technology and design. I came up for the idea for this class, and I based it upon a successful STEAM project that I led for 2 years while I was at Saratoga STEM. What I did for that project was I had students get into groups of 4, and I assigned one of them to be in charge of costumes, one in charge of lighting, one in charge of set, and one in charge of research. And those 4 individuals had to read a play, and they had to give a presentation at the end of the semester describing their ideas of how the costumes, lights, and sets would look. They also had to build a to-scale model. And those are 2 examples of 2 of the models that I had students do while I was at STEM. So when I started working on this course for eAchieve, I basically just based the course on that premise. At the end of the semester, students will be recording themselves giving a presentation, pretending that I'm a director looking to hire somebody. What are your ideas for the costumes and the sets and the lighting for the play that you are currently reading? And they also will be building a model similar to the ones that I had the students do while I was at STEM. The one difference is that at STEM, it was in groups of 4. Whoops. It was in groups of 4, whereas with this course, students are on their own. Students are expected to take all roles over the course of the 18 weeks of the semester. So here's what we're thinking about now. Want to talk about this, Rick?
Yep. So earlier this year, we took a survey of our students, and we asked them what courses they would like to, if we could add new courses, what courses would you like to see? And we gave them 5 choices of things we had heard might be of interest to students, and you could see that drama and acting got the highest votes with almost 80 students these are high school students for all these 5 courses. And so there certainly seems to be an awful lot of interest in bringing a drama and acting course to eAchieve. Well, we already have drama and acting courses in the district already, very successful in our face-to-face schools. And so if you flip to the next slide, our plan then, moving forward, which we talked about last year as well, but now that we've got a successful run of drama classes under our belt, to bring one of those drama classes, we'll just start with the first one, Drama 1, we'll bring it over to eAchieve. It'll be essentially the same class, but adapted for the online environment, using what we've learned from the middle school class.
Currently in our district, we have 5 theater courses that are offered at the high school level. All of them are year-long courses. And so we can just take the curriculum of Drama 1 and turn it into an eAchieve virtual platform. Are there any questions about any of our work?
Mr. Baumgart.
Well, Rick knows that when you came around with this last time, I had some apprehensions towards it because it seems like paradoxical or something that we would have it online when theater would you would normally think of interaction between people, which does still raise the question. You had people doing monologues. Did they write their own monologues, by the way? The ones you showed us?
Those 2 monologues were not written by them, but their final project was an original piece, yes.
So they did have a chance to write a monologue someplace along the way. And they talk about the confidence building, and all of that is great. And diction, and having worked with people and interviewing and some of that kind of stuff, I know the needs to be able to communicate well with people. But there's a different element when you're doing a dialogue or whatever they call it when there are lots of people involved,
Scenes, sure.
on stage,
Teamwork,
face to face. And I'm wondering if there's any way you're going to be able to incorporate that into it. When you and I are looking at each other face to face, and sometimes we have students in here that have to realize that we're not going to bite their heads off, when they talk to us, and it works. But these kids are still isolated when they're doing this. So, and you knew I was going to ask this question pretty
Absolutely. So anytime you offer any sort of innovation in education, there are always pros and cons.
And I like the pros.
Right, right. And one of the biggest limitations in a virtual platform is any sort of group work. I've thought about ways to maybe change the course next year where perhaps I would encourage students to maybe try to get together with a friend or a brother or sister and, perhaps design some sort of scene work project where only the student who is taking the course is the one being evaluated, but at the very least that gives the student an opportunity to have what you're describing, a more authentic theater experience. Because you're absolutely right. The second change that I definitely want to make for next year is I want to encourage some of the students to perform some of their pieces in front of other people. If you look at those 2, obviously those 2 girls were in the room by themselves. Well, it's a more authentic experience if they have an audience. And certainly in a traditional classroom, they would, the rest of the members of the class. We did do some things through discussion boards where students posted their projects and gave feedback to other students. So there was a way to have students interact with one another, albeit virtually,
Well, I want to just close with saying I was very impressed with what you have accomplished. I guess, but anytime we are impressed with what you have accomplished, our question is always going to be, what's better? But
Sure.
Congratulations on it so far, and be
Thank you.
interested in what you do next.
Mrs. Ryanchek.
Thank you. So well done, Mr. Chavia. And so just to piggyback off of Bill's, I said, you mentioned that students were on their own. Could they actually partner up and do something? And isn't there an option where they can see each, well, okay, I'm actually going to pause that question for a minute. There's times when you ask them to move the furniture and make some space, create some space, because they're going to get up and do some activities that you want them to. So the first question is, how do you know they're doing it? Can you see them? And then, isn't there an option where they can see each other so that they can do things in front of each other? I thought that was.
There are options during e-sessions in Blackboard Collaborate where I can see students and they can see each other. I'll be honest that the technology is not, the streaming of the video is not as high quality as perhaps I would like it to be to really make it worthwhile. For a lot of those activities that I did, I made sure that the students turned on their microphones. And so at the very least, I could keep offering verbal feedback to them. So, what are you doing here? Which of these activities that we just did was the most beneficial, in your opinion, to meet this learning target? What did you learn from this or that or the other? There certainly was an element of faith. The students are doing it on the other side, but I trust my students enough to know that if they're saying that they're doing it, that they're doing it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, of course, in their summative assessments, it's coming through whether or not they've mastered the skills that we're talking about. So,
Tell me how many students were involved this year?
so it's brand new, so it was small. The acting and performance class had 12 kids, and I currently have 15 in the theater and the theater tech and design class. We are certainly hoping that that will increase as time goes by.
And then have you had any connections with other online districts?
That's a great question. I searched online and I could not find any other district that is teaching theater virtually. So we are innovative and we are on the front lines of that.
I'm looking forward to more. I liked what I saw so far.
Great.
So thank
Good.
you. Nice job.
Any other questions?
I love to hear the word innovative.
I do too. Anything further?
Nope.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Excellent
Thank you.
presentation. Alrighty, our last item under the information section is Elementary Comprehensive Literacy Model Classroom. That's a mouthful. Welcome.
Good evening. I am Melissa Yao, Director of Elementary Teaching and Learning, and I have three wonderful educators here tonight, and they're going to do most of the talking because that's who you want to hear from, the people who are in front of the students all the time, and they're joining us tonight so graciously to share about what's happening in the classroom around CLM, our comprehensive literacy model at the elementary level. So from Hawthorne, teaching first and second grade, we have Kristen Koberger and Mackenzie Rabin, and then teaching fifth grade at Bethesda Elementary, we have Courtney King. Each of these ladies are anchor classrooms for literacy, which means that they have worked intensely with our literacy coaches, and they are at a place where other teachers come into their classrooms to learn from them and with them, as well as they also offer the classrooms for administrators to come in so that we can calibrate and continue to learn so that we can make sure that we are giving meaningful feedback to teachers. I also can't go on without thanking Emily Reddy, coordinator of 4K through 5th grade literacy, who's here to support us. And tonight, she's usually here at the forefront presenting, but tonight she gets to sit back and hear all the celebrations of the work that she so intensely leads at the district. So I'm going to start out just with an overview of district data. So looking at MAP, our measures of academic progress, one of the tools that we use to see how students are doing achievement-wise in literacy. In the spring of 2013-14, this is prior to our district implementation of CLM, you can see there where our students at each grade level where they were achieving. In the right-hand column, you can see at the end of last year in spring, after our third year implementation in the district, the growth that students have had. So at every level, we are seeing now increases in student achievement based off of our comprehensive literacy model, which is a true celebration, because that's what we want to see, that what we're doing in the classroom is having an impact on student achievement. Are we where we want to be yet? Nope, but we're headed there. We also take a look at what's happening in the classroom, being able to celebrate what's happening in the classrooms through eSale, and then also helping to give feedback so we know what next steps need to happen through creation of curriculum, through coaching cycles, through developing professional development opportunities, and making sure that teachers have the resources that they need to meet the learners' needs. So one area that we look at as far as practice in the classroom is that diverse reading materials are being enjoyed, discussed, and analyzed in the classroom. And so in fall of 2015, we had 41% of our classrooms with this happening either at a level of approaching or meeting, that all the components were happening. In fall of 2017, we were at 75%. I would have put our current data up there, but we're in the middle of eSale, so it's not complete. But what huge progress it goes to show, just on behalf of our teachers, that our teachers are learners and they are implementing best practices in their classroom and really giving a joyful experience to our learners as well. Another area that we look at is, yes?
Can you go back a minute, please?
Well, yes.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, I did.
Is that the 41 versus 75? How did you measure that? Is that a subjective or objective or whatever?
Great. We have a adult learning framework. So we have a continuum of practice that has 3 tiers to it, beginning that has a set of criteria. Then we have approaching that has another criteria for it, and then meeting. So a rubric of sorts that we go in. All the teachers have it. Buildings continue to look at it. A lot of teachers use it to goal set, to move their practice forward.
And so we have the eSale visits.
Those are the eSale visits, and we have consistent people at the district, such as myself, Emily, and then the building principals and coaches who go on these together so that we are calibrating and have discussions about what we're seeing happening through the evidence. So.
Thank you.
The next area that we also take a look at is daily small group reading lessons that they are designed to meet the instructional needs of our diverse learners. And in fall of 2015, we were at 11% of small groups happening. And then this fall, we were at 47% happening at that meeting range. So now I'm going to turn it over, and you're going to hear from the classroom teachers about their journeys.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so our experience with Language Workshop started 3 years ago. We were lucky enough, Krista and I, to be selected as the anchor classroom at Hawthorne that Emily was just talking about, and we worked really closely with our coach to develop our understanding of Language Workshop and really get a deep understanding of the planners. So throughout this coaching cycle, we were able to create planners and discuss ways that we could, oh, sorry, can you go back one more? That's okay. Yes. We were able to create planners, discuss ways to grow students' reading comprehension, their conversations, and also their thoughtful logs. And we just love sharing the power of Language Workshop with others. Throughout the years, we've welcomed visitors from Carroll University teaching students to principals and teachers in our own district, as well as teachers from other school districts. This is actually a picture of some adults from Menominee Falls School District who came to see Language Workshop, which was really fun to have them in. And yeah, you can go to the next slide, Melissa. Thank you. Sorry. One of my favorite things about Language Workshop is the way that it connects to the rest of our day. Language Workshop has like a purpose and intent, so that really sets the tone for the rest of our day. Whether it's reading, writing, or inquiry workshop, we're always coming back to the text that we're reading or the essential question for our literacy unit. Next slide. One of the biggest hurdles we faced when we were starting out was planning. We would stay very late after school, trying to plan really thoughtful units of study. What we had to do was choose texts that were accessible to our students and also texts that could tie back to the standards and the essential questions. So once we had narrowed it down to about 5 books, we then needed to plan 3 phases for each of those books, and that got to be very time consuming. But thankfully this summer, thanks to coaches and teachers, we were able to develop planners for every single unit for every single grade, and those have been really amazing because we can just look at the planners that have been planned and then differentiate for the kids who are sitting right in front of us. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the effects of Language Workshop. Chris and I have been lucky enough to loop with our second graders now this is our 3rd year with them. And so every year they've been in school, they've had Language Workshop. And so we've seen firsthand some of the effects of Language Workshop. And some of the things we can speak to is their ability to think deeply and talk about text, their vocabulary and their experiential knowledge, their improved listening comprehension, a love of reading, and their conversation skills. Our kids know how to wait to enter conversations, and because of that, we don't need to raise our hands, which has been just really a powerful experience for us and for the kids. That was all I had about Language Workshop, and Kristen and Courtney are going to talk about the small group, Big Rock.
So guided reading is one of the small group instructional practices that we do in our classroom, and it's for kids reading at similar levels of text. And the goal of guided reading is to really get kids to be flexible in their strategies for reading and writing, and also keeping that focus on comprehension and keeping the meaning of the story as the main focus of reading and writing. Like Mackenzie mentioned, we were lucky enough to be an anchor classroom, and so we did get a lot of timely and effective feedback from our coaches, from people from the district, from other districts, and so we really grew our confidence in teaching guided reading. And also we took advantage of the great TDPs that are led by the coaches and coordinators, and also continuing learning through our literacy PLCs has been helpful to kind of reflect on our teaching and help others in the school grow as teaching guided reading also. These are the planners that we use for guided reading, and what we do is we really think about what we know about students, their formal and informal assessments and observations to make small groups, choose appropriate text levels that are engaging, and then think about the group that's in front of us and what they know and how we can build on their strengths to get them to that next level. So, like Mackenzie mentioned, we have 14 kids who have been with us since kindergarten. It's kind of a unique experience, but we've had the pleasure of seeing them grow from grade K through 2, and we just wanted to mention that 100% of those 14 kids are on track to meet grade level expectations or go beyond. So we're pretty proud of them for that. But beyond that, beyond the numbers, they, like Mackenzie said, they love reading, they love writing, they're engaged. And that's really what we want, to like them take their learning and take it outside the classroom walls and be engaged in literacy experiences beyond the classroom. So Courtney is going to talk about another small group literacy practice, literature discussion groups.
Yeah, so LDGs, I teach 5th grade, so guided reading is more or less for the younger elementary ed students. LDGs are for the upper elementary, and so these are students who can focus more on the discourse rather than the accuracy of a text. This is one of the planners. It's very lengthy because there are a lot of components to it, but one of the things that I've noticed as an educator who has written these planners for the district, knowing that many, many teachers will be utilizing them, as well as somebody who writes them for myself to utilize for a very specific group of students, the components are really amazing because they go across the board. We connect to readers workshop lessons. You'll see there's a little graphic organizer on there about text structure we were talking about in our readers workshop mini lessons, and then tied it into the books. The essential questions for language workshop are on there as well. We have thoughtful log entries, which they do in math and literacy. And the main point is the discourse. So there's lots of questions on there for the discussions the students run, as well as conferring points that teachers can use for one-on-one moments as well. So like I said, all the components together, it does seem really lengthy, but you use it over a couple of weeks with the students as well. So what it looks like for us, I think one of the biggest struggles right away is what teachers always say, time. How do I fit all of these students and get them in to meet with me, read the text? They're long books. And I think the biggest aha moment for myself as an educator with LDGs is knowing that not every student needs to be in an LDG at the same time. And so that was kind of a weight lifted off, and I could really focus on the students. And doing that, we created this really awesome schedule. In 5th grade, we have 3 homeroom monolingual classes that we share our students between. And so when we do that, we have a lot more opportunities for the kids to interact. I get to meet with kids that are not in my main homeroom. The students get to hear from other students. And in doing that, we have something called a 4-week cycle. And in that 4-week cycle, we break it into 2-week sections. And the first 2-week section, you're either in an LDG or you have a choice. You can be in an independent book or a book club run by students. You flip-flop. So if you were in an LDG the first time, then you get that second choice of independent or book club. And if you were not in an LDG, you will be in the second round. So everyone is hit with a teacher and that self-guided support in that group. But then they also have a choice. Do they want to read their own books, or do they want to continue to be in a club with other students? And it's surprising how many students still want to be in that guided reading, that collaborative environment with the book clubs. So we set up this kind of environment, this rotation, and we keep going through. The 4 weeks goes along with the themes. So like I said, it connects to language workshop, and as we move into the new theme, our books for LDGs change as well. Great. So one of the major things about LDGs is the student choice and the ownership that comes with it. So you'll see on the left-hand side there are 6 books. These are books that we do book talks with, and we offer them up to all 60 kids, and we have them put down their top 3 choices. From there, I have yet to give a student anything but their first choice or second choice. So they are picking a book that they are already invested in, something that speaks to them. From there, that middle picture is actually a double-sided bookmark that we have them put then in their book. So it continues. We meet with them the first day, and we give them a choice. Well, how do we want to break this book up? What seems reasonable for you guys? From there, they make a plan individually. I'm going to try and get 2 chapters done by the weekend because I don't want to read on Saturday and Sunday. And then I'm going to do the rest of it on Monday and then follow up on Tuesday. And then on the back side, the ownership part of that bookmark is the rubric. So again, language discourse is the major thing of LDGs. So we have some speaking and listening grades on there that the students have narrowed down, as well as accountable talk frames that they can pull from if needed. And so this bookmark stays with them, and then at the very end of the LDG cycle, those 2 weeks, they will self-assess themselves as well as the group members, making a goal for the next rotation. Right. And then the one amazing thing that I love about LDGs is that it's not leveled. So students, I have a student with print disability. He reads at a 1st grade level because of accuracy, but he comprehends exceptionally high. We have him in an app where he can listen to these books. We can get any book that is an LDG on his iPad that he listens to, and he can come to the group ready to discuss. I also have kids that are GT and extremely high. This LDG planner right there is actually written by a student of mine. She then runs guided reading groups with those LDG planners. So yes, book clubs are not necessarily meant to be run by one person. It's supposed to be a collaboration, but it gives that student an opportunity to kind of look at it from the lens of a teacher. She's having to pick out vocabulary that she thinks the students should know. She's having to think about books that the students will enjoy reading. And it's giving those higher level students as well as the lower level students an entry point into these conversations. And then there's just a few little blurbs from students in my class that have said different things that they enjoy about LDGs. Let's see, it's kind of small for me. I like talking to all the other people in the group and seeing what their thinking and learning is. I like that you get to talk to people from other classes or others you don't normally pair up with, which has to do with that kind of, you don't know what book others are picking. You kind of just get put into a group, and they have actually made some new friendships because they're talking to someone they don't normally do. And the last one says, I like the choices of books that we get to choose from and explore. So, that's LDGs. Do you guys have any questions for any of us?
This is Ryan Check.
Thank you. Can you guys, Kristen, Mackenzie, and Courtney, can you explain kind of how your day runs when Kristen and Mackenzie, you're in the same class and you only have 14 students? Okay. Can you explain that? Because I see it says here, the school district of Waukesha partnered with Linda Dorn and the University of Arkansas in this model, which uses literacy as a tool for measuring school change in the 4 interrelated areas. So then I thought, well, maybe there's a grant that allows us to have 2 teachers in one room with 14 students. So can you just kind of explain, do kids come and go and how that works?
Yeah, so we actually have 2 classrooms, and those 14 kids were the kids that have been with us since kindergarten. We've had more kids that moved in and out, but we have 14 kids since kindergarten. So I actually have 20 kids, and she has 16 kids. So together we have a group of kids that, like Courtney was saying, we have some kids in guided reading groups and some kids in literature discussion groups based on their reading level and if they're ready to move on from kind of the problem-solving aspect of reading to more the discussion and focusing on that part.
And I technically teach first grade, and Kristen technically teaches second grade, but we co-teach and share all of our kids. And one thing that we do, instead of just being like first graders in this room for language workshop and second graders in here, we try to split up who like our strongest conversationalists are and like really balance those, because there are some first graders who are like rock stars and then second graders as well. So we try to split up the kids who lead the conversation a lot, and then from there we just kind of split them off and make sure, and we switch the rooms often so that kids are getting to hear from lots of different peers.
How do I organize my students during the day? Is that kind of so when we share our students, we have Readers Workshop scheduled for about 50 minutes, give or take. During that time, they are independently reading. The stamina is what we're really working on these kids. So when we assign them chunks, obviously a large chapter book done in 2 weeks, we're expecting them to read 100 plus pages in a week, which seems a lot for some, and others really, they could read it, in an afternoon. And so we want to give them a long amount of time to read. During that, we pull them for LDGs once a week. So I am only meeting with these students. We meet with them the first day to make the plan that's individualized to the group, and then we schedule, okay, we're gonna meet the next 2 Thursdays, and we'll be wrapping the book up on that second time. So I then confer during Readers Workshop the remainder of the days that I'm not pulling those LDGs with the students, checking in to see if their assignments are done, and we do that across all 5th grade, and we kind of share the students as we're going through that process.
Melissa, could you tell me what resources exist for teachers across the district to ensure a uniform curriculum?
Yeah, so as they mentioned earlier, this past summer we wrote the units for language workshop, and so we have 8 units at each grade level, and there are about 5 texts in each unit, and there's a planner written for each unit. So those are based on grade level standards so that we can ensure that every student has access to grade level standards. And so we want to have some fidelity, but as Mackenzie mentioned, she takes those planners that were written and then she reads through it and thinks about the students who are right there in front of her so she can make those adjustments as needed.
But there is that foundation.
There
throughout
is.
the district.
Yep, and also the same thing has been done based on the units as Courtney mentioned. We also wrote LDG planners for the text for each unit, and there are at least five multiple sets of text for each unit of LDGs where planners were written as well.
And then a follow-up, could you tell me what district compensation or recognition is awarded to those in anchor classrooms?
Sure, they're the joy of having lots of people come see the great things that you are doing. There's currently not district compensation for that, but they get the opportunity to really learn and collaborate with coaches and other teachers. So our anchor classrooms are people who are learners themselves, who really put themselves out there and looking for continuous leadership opportunities. And so this is one way for lots of people who are self-starters, motivators, looking for opportunities to collaborate and share.
I take it that would be a 4 on the state evaluation system.
Correct, yes.
Okay,
Mhm, mhm.
Well answered.
I was going to say hugs, but I get some of those too.
They get to work with you.
I have nothing.
You have nothing?
I know, it's very outstanding.
Okay, fantastic. If there's no other questions.
And I would just
Oh, yes.
invite you any time to come and see. When we started language workshop, I was a principal at Bethesda. And if you talk about wanting to see joy happening, go and see the students talking, and you will have no doubt that we are preparing students for careers and college and what they can do in conversations, in the way that they're learning to socially interact. It truly is an exciting time. So.
Waited long enough for me to think of a question.
Oh, you got one now? There you go.
And
That's my
they're
goal.
gone.
Yeah. Okay,
You
shut the
mentioned
mic down.
someplace in the conversation about at Hawthorne, the connection with the Carroll Lab students. And I've always been very interested in that. Can you just give me a little bit more background, or what's going on? How do you use this Carroll students? What do they get out of it? What do you get out of it? Can you do that? If not, I'll come over and ask you.
So we had a literacy methods course. So they weren't in student teaching yet, but they were still in classrooms learning about specifically literacy.
The Carroll kids.
The Carroll kids, yes. So they came in and we gave them a small group of students to confer with, which is just a short meeting about talking about goals, listening to them read, giving them some praise, and then leaving them with something to work on. And so they had kind of 3 or 4 students from our class, and I think we each had 5 Carroll students on Tuesday and 5 on Thursday. So there was 10 Carroll students coming in twice a week. So the kids really enjoyed it because they got a lot of attention. And then they were able to kind of sit in our small groups and see what guided reading was all about and literature discussion groups, and kind of see how we set up the day to include language workshop, readers workshop, writers workshop, all in one morning.
Oh, that's
So.
great. Thank you. I know that the idea was to create the partnership just as you're describing it, and I'm very pleased to hear what you're saying there.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, we loved having them, and the kids did too.
Thank you. Now you can.
Anything else? I can dismiss them now? You're done. Okay. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
presentation. Alrighty, that brings to a close our information items. Next on the agenda is discussion items, of which we have one. That would be the Student Achievement Update, Whittier Elementary School. Welcome. Gannon.
Hello. Hello. Turn it on. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, excited to be here. It was fun hearing Charlie talk earlier. He was a Banting student from years ago. Hearing Rose talk about math, and this group talking about literacy, and kind of putting it all together, and what's the story at Whittier. So if you saw from the executive summary, This we've never done because this is a different grant than we previously had. We previously had a grant called SAGE, which is Student Achievement Guaranteed in Education. That is sunsetted. That's over with, I believe, this year. It was the last year of it. Knowing what my future plans were, we changed to the achievement gap reduction, and that gives you a bit more flexibility. And one of the expectations is that we share. It's not the expectation. A requirement is that students who receive, or schools that receive the achievement gap reduction grant have to come before the board at semesters. So you will see me one more time, and that will be sometime in June. And then Tahare will be here. Mrs. De Leon will be here a year from now, and as long as she's there, and we have the grant. So in the document, just giving you some background information, it's dependent upon enrollment and percent of free and reduced lunch. You can see the amount of funding that we have received, and as our enrollment on the bottom half has gone down, then the funding goes down as well. And then you can, on the last page is our percent of free and reduced lunch. I do have a just a few slides because I want to show you the data, which you see that as well. But I don't ever do anything without celebrating first. So that first part was about why I'm here and why I've never been here in this capacity before. But this next part, I did. Is it going to load? It was up there. Oh, there it is. And I'm on Safari. I did what you told me. And you know what? This did this before. It's saying it's trying to connect. All right, you know what? I'm going to not listen to you. And I'm going to go over to here. Trying to connect. And it was just there. No. Well, that makes me mad because it looks nicer that way. All right, let me just refresh and see if it does that. Come on, baby. All right, well, you're looking at a picture of the wonderful Whittier staff, and this was our engagement party. We had an engagement party. That is our theory of action is about engagement. We are working with Jen Townsend with social emotional engagement, knowledge, and skills. That's more of our theory of action and what our quarterlies and everything's focused on. But this was a big engagement party because we were celebrating the engagement of our students. Always celebrating our community partners, our work with United Way, Sharp Literacy, Carroll University, St. Luke's, other churches. United Way, we're going to be going on our second free book fair coming up. In the fall, all students we will have backpacks for all. St. Luke's is always there with us, helping and supporting our kids. Just all kinds of different opportunities just with our community partners. We also have the last couple years, dang. Just a minute. I'm not going to give up. River Glen Church has adopted us as well, and this right here is our relocatable building, which half of it is used for the YMCA daycare. The other half we have closed, and people all over the district police officers come when they find children that need clothes. It's a pretty remarkable place that just to help and support our families. We had a big event at the beginning of the school year. We have a little free library out in front of our school, so if you ever need a book. And just a quick plug for our Whittier Craft and Vendor Fair on Saturday from 9 to 4. Our PTO has been remarkable. And so we've got just some wonderful things. We've got 27 vendors, so come just for an hour. We'd love to see you there. So again, all the things that we're celebrating that help Whittier support the families and the students we serve. And those of you who've been in my office or have ever been around me and my computer, you have probably seen my heat chart that I call, oh, this better show up. Yeah. It was working back there. Oh, I should disconnect. All right, we'll see how we go here. This graph on this first chart, this is our historical infinite campus behavior referrals. So we are a PBIS school. And you could see that in 14, 15, 15, 16, what things look like. This has been just the last 4 years since I had a dean of students. Prior to that, it was off the charts. This heat chart is what we created, what Mrs. Melanzi had created to just document what was kind of going on and how much support, how behavior interfered with learning, I guess is what that would look like. So this is 13, 14. The dates of the day of the month is up here. The months of the year are here. If it's black, we didn't have school. If it's green, it's good. If it's red, it's bad. So we had on an average 10.4 referrals a day. We went to 14, 15. We went up to 13 referrals a day, 13.6, but like office calls. 15, 16, the first half of the year looked like this. The second of the half of the year looked different. 2 teachers ended up resigning mid-year that year. And again, 13 referrals. So then this last year, we replaced, this year we replaced a number of teachers, this year replaced. That's what it looked like last year. And we had 9 new staff, kind of everybody on the same page, and it went down to 7 referrals per day. So when you think of this whole time I'm thinking of the math presentation from this morning just earlier and the CLM. We're a CLM school, we're doing all those kinds of things, but the students' learning and the interference of their learning kind of look like that. And you got to get a handle on engagement and getting kids engaged if you're going to learn. So this we were feeling pretty good at. This is what it looks like today. This is this year. So it looks very different. Maybe 2 calls a day, sometimes none. But we are able to respond effectively. And when you do that, your learning is going to hopefully follow. So when I go back up here, yes?
Can you explain how that happened again? Why? And you got
I will. Yep. There's a couple kinds of things I'll look toward the end, but I think there's a couple pretty significant kinds of things. Staff is the big thing, is just the right people at the right time. So, so one of the things we do at Whittier is we really try to be very narrowly focused. Our SAIL work helps us do that, but this achievement gap reduction, our theory of action, and our educator effectiveness SLO they're all connected. There's a literacy and a math piece. Every team, there's three teacher teams. One team, they have a literacy goal and a math goal. And the goal is to move the wall. So if you look here, these are the students. The top of the wall is our literacy wall. The bottom is math. And these are the students that are proficient or advanced. These are the students that are middle or basic. And we're trying to move the wall. We're trying to get students to be proficient or advanced. And this is the visual, the one we manipulate by hand, and we also have it electronically. So this is the actual document and what we do. The achievement gap reduction grant is, if you look all the way to the right, we put the funds into class size reduction. There's flexibility of things, other things you could do, have a coach. Well, we have coaches. We could have tutors, but we have Title I. So we put it, because of the needs of the students and the behaviors, we put it into smaller class sizes, and that is under 18 for K1, 2, and 3. If you look to the left, you'll see the grades. Reading is on the top, math is at the bottom. And what we are looking to do is raise the percent of students who are proficient or advanced 5 percentage points from this data wall. Okay? And we have described how we formatively assess and how we summatively assess, both in literacy and math. And then we, that third long box, I described the specifics of the grant. And then what has to happen, and why I'm here, is this third column, or whatever, at the end of the fall semester, that is where each grade level is. So in kindergarten reading and kindergarten math, we went up 5 percentile points from our data wall, and we did that in second grade math. We didn't do it in those others, and we remained the same in that first grade math. Okay? So at the end of this, the goal is we've made it's all green. All right. So what you have to think about here is, I don't think any other school has come in here and shared this kind of or level of data with you for each grade. This is the meat committee, I say, when it's teaching and learning. This is our business. If I were on any board committee, this is the one I'd want to be on. This is what we do. And so seeing this doesn't necessarily warm my heart, because I wish it was all green and I wish we were changing that. But that's one of the reasons we get the grant and we get this funding, because of the complicated needs of the students we serve.
Okay. I
Yep.
notice this is just K through 3. Is the AGI
That's K
all?
through 5. I can't just, this is just K through 3, but I got another slide, Bill.
Oh, okay.
Here you go. Yeah. So here is, we don't ever look at anything K through 3, just like you don't just look at reading, you don't just look at math. So here's what the literacy looks across the board, and I color coded the same. And here's what the math looks across the same. If there's nothing there, it's just kind of the same. It's interesting how this data changes day to day, because if you look down here, these are the number of students that have moved in and moved out and moved in and out. And over here, the total is 25 students that, just the transiency that we have. All school, if you look at the percent at or above grade level, we went down, all school. For math, that's for literacy, for math, we went up 1 percentage point. If you come down here, if you look over here at literacy, you can see our percent at or below grade level of the students that walked into kindergarten at the beginning of the year. And then you can see where we're at now. So we are I mean, we're making some significant gains there, but they're coming in. That's the level that we're supporting. We're moving them. They're learning pretty significantly. One of the things that we, I know, Karen, you asked about what are some of the thoughts behind that. Takes us a long time to get kids back up and running in the school year. So right now, most schools might see this kind of data the first couple months. Just you're trying to move it, It takes us a long time to get kids back to where they were in the spring. So by the end of the year, things look pretty good. But when they come back to us, that summer setback, that summer slide, I've never experienced anything quite like it. And bringing that up, and when you talk about these language workshops, and you talk about the Dream Box and all those kinds of things, all of that just helps and supports and engages those learners. But it's pretty tough, and it's all of those are in the learning, the language discussion groups and the guided reading groups. Those are all at their academic levels, or where they're at. They have universal instruction, but then they all have group instruction based at whatever level they're at. So one of the things that really, besides what has helped with that behavior, one of them was, the group of teachers we have right now. But one of the biggest things that has happened is we have a Breakfast for All program. We only had 20% of the kids eating breakfast 2 years ago. Now we have 87, 90% eating every day. They eat in the classroom, and it is like eliminated health room visits in the morning. I believe we have it. Blair has it. I'm not sure if one other school has it, but it is remarkable. So when you say what kind of has made some of those differences, it's the students that come to us haven't changed. How we've responded has changed. And more of their, some of those needs that they have walking in to be ready to learn, that all schools face. Some schools face more of them than others. And I always end with Whittier for life because, once you get a feel and you've been in Whittier, it just kind of stays with you forever. And we're doing some great work there. I'm excited. I shared all this data today with Mrs. De Leon, and she's going to have some real talents to help. We've got it in a place where it's safe and where kids can learn. Now we have to really hone in and pay attention to that data. And I'm excited to come back here in a few months and show that all green. That's the goal. And it's a year-long process. This is mid-year progress. It's a year-long process. The other thing about the grant is that things can change, and it's very fluid. So once she steps in and she gets a feel and she looks at this, there might be a different focus or a different look, and that's okay. She just has to come and report out to the board twice a year.
Brian, check.
Are you ready for questions?
Yes.
I hear so many great things about SAIL. Did your team go through the SAIL, and then when? Was SAIL a part of getting your hands around things? And I mean, you've always been doing data and trying to figure out what to do and dissect things and just look at each particular need and come here and ask for help. And I mean, it's just been getting better. But didn't all schools now have SAIL? Okay, when did you do SAIL, and how did that help?
Our theory of action, which is SAIL, is specifically tied to student engagement. So I can remember a few years ago when somebody else was sitting in Jody's chair and said, if you're going to talk to me about attendance, if you're going to talk to me about behavior, I'm going to ask you about engagement. And I didn't forget that, because those people that sit in those chairs are pretty smart. And so we really focused in on engagement. And SEEKS is about social, emotional engagement, learning, and skills. And we have a ladder where we go in and we assess how engaged are the kids. And you can walk into a classroom and you can see little Greg over there just, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just learned this. Did you know what I just learned? Okay, that's the highest level of engagement. And then you see Billy over there, and he's kicking his friend under the table, completely not engaged. And so how do we get Billy to be more like Greggy? And what's that going to look like? And when and what that has is there are some specific. I always have. Oh, it's not on. It's on this card. I have it written right here. Engagement, access, and expression. So you can set it all up so they have access to it, but if they can't express themselves, and that's why the LDG or the workshops, the language workshops are so awesome. Teachers say turn and talk. Kids are talking about their learning. It's just remarkable. So our was what this looks like. Was that specifically related to SAL? I think I can definitively say no, but I can say it had a big part of it, as along with everything. It's the stars are aligned right now, and they're going to continue to be aligned because we have some really committed and supportive teachers that are really focused in on the learning and get the whole child. They get that a child can't learn if they're falling asleep. They get that a child can't learn if they're hungry. This breakfast for all, they'll get a cereal, they'll get a milk. The kids drink the milk. There's extra cereals. They leave that in a bin or in a basket. By the end of the day, all that food's gone. Every day. Every day. We have fresh fruit and vegetable grant. Twice a week, we get fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean, kids just, you guys, I think you all have kids. Kids are hungry. They eat all the time. And they do that at school too, especially when they come hungry. So CLM, Comprehensive Literacy Model, has been huge. Our math workshop, all those kinds of things. We do ESAL just like everybody else. My friend Melissa Yao always, I don't know if you knew this, but she was with us 7 years ago. She was at Whittier. And the growth and what our learning and teaching looks like other schools. It didn't look like that 7, 6, 5, 4 years ago. The last 3, it's been pretty solid. So that's going to impact learning when students weren't engaged or instruction was compromised.
Did you see a difference between learning in the morning versus afternoon after they had eaten lunch before breakfast was available?
I think there's other things that come into play for the afternoon because they get lunch as well. So they have breakfast and lunch. It's a long day when you're a little kid. But we are looking at engaging kids in their learning. So I have teachers that come back from lunch and they do yoga. They do all the different Go Noodle. They do anything to get those kids engaged and back with them. So it's kind of, you got the whole day. You gotta keep them all day. It's harder toward the end of the day, but they do a pretty remarkable job. If they didn't, the behavior wouldn't look like that.
Thank you, Cynthia, for everything.
Other questions?
Yeah.
We'll see you in a few months.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alrighty, well, that concludes our meeting for this evening. The next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, April 10th, in this room at 6 p.m. Thank you for your work and attendance. Meeting adjourned.